Alright, we should be live for our next cast here. Hopefully, everyone's having a safe and happy Easter. I am Josh Placer from GameWisdom.com, and welcome to Game, or whatever I call Game Wisdom Live, or the Save the Extreme cast. We still have to settle on a name. Maybe we'll do that by the time this pandemic is over. But joining me is indie game developer Sharky. How are you doing?
I am doing good. Working on Easter, as usual kind of thing.
Again, I don't know what this whole pandemic thing is. It hasn't stopped work for me.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't know what holidays are either, or vacations.
Or weekends.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
weekends.
Don't know
Yeah,
what.
what are you people even talking about?
Yeah, I mean, didn't we have that conversation with another developer this past week? It's just like we look outside, it's the apocalypse. Okay, we go back to work.
Yeah, we don't have money either. We don't. What
Yeah.
is money? And
Mm-hmm.
what is outside?
Yep. It'll turn to Fallout before we know it. And none of us will really mind.
None of us will even realize that it changed.
Yeah, very much.
It's like, wasn't he always like that? No. Oh, that's weird. I thought it
All we
was.
know is exposure. Exposure never changes, right?
Yeah, exactly. Unless the internet goes out.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing we'll know
Yeah.
within like instants.
Steam shuts off. That ends it right there.
Or your video buffers, and it's like you
Mm-hmm.
know your connection wavers when you're looking up something. It's like, why is this web page not loading up fast enough?
Yep. But
That is truly apocalyptic.
definitely. But while the things are still functioning as they are, we still have topics to discuss. So, I guess
Hmm.
to start with, for games that I've been playing, well, we tried Ghost Recon Breakpoint earlier this week, and they managed to break the game, and then they re-broke the game in terms of its progression. It's quite impressive, I think, for them to doubly break their design like that.
Well, here's the question: which point was the breaking point?
I'm going to say when they added in gear rating to the original design.
Well, then there we know where we got the name from.
And they gave the Punisher, he had to have his contract required Magnum with him at all times. Every cutscene, that guy had to use his gun in some, like MacGyver.
Hmm?
But other than that, we've been playing more indie games. I'm trying to think if there's anything like standout. I've been going back through that Idle game, Dragon's Cliff, trying to see how far that goes. And I still have some point I need to go back to Neo 2. So, what have you been up to, I guess, gameplay wise?
Been playing some Oxygen Not Included. Been playing the original Disgaea. I've been going back to it. I went back to it like I had apparently last time I played it, I had just beaten the game kind of thing, and restarted back to the first level and everything. There were New Game Plus, and my character's really high leveled, and I'm resetting their levels and enhancing them to where my level like 30 beats a level 100 kind of thing. Much better than actually being level 100. And see here, I've been playing a little bit of Monster Train. Been playing some Forger 2 kind of thing. Like some of the controls like just feel off on
Yeah.
Forger kind of thing.
Kind of reminds me a little bit of Stardew Valley, I think, in terms of like that kind of control scheme.
Not. I mean, like yes and no. Like the control scheme that feels off to me doesn't remind me of Stardew Valley because that was pretty solid kind of thing. Like I'll be clicking on a block and everything to upgrade it, and or to dig it out or whatever, and it won't let me click, and then I have to go back and back and back until I'm like well off of it before it'll even do that kind of thing. Like it won't even let me do it from the block beside. I got to be like a block and like 2 pixels off of it, to the other
Mm.
side, to let me dig it out. And it's also very slow, and if you just move just slightly, it just just wrecks it
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. And I never had that issue in Stardew Valley. I mean, Stardew Valley kind of has the same kind of targeting system, but it was not, oh, you got to be 3 more pixels this way kind of thing, or else I'm not going to do anything. I mean, like, and even if you were off in Stardew Valley, it would still do something. It would just may not be the thing you wanted it to do, kind of thing. Where in Voyager, it just does nothing, and you have to click. You know, like, not digging that part of it, but like, besides that controls gripe, I mean, it's been pretty fun, but the controls gripe is definitely a pretty large one in my opinion.
Yeah. But you certainly picked the best games for the apocalypse. I mean, you could, if you try and play all the Disgaea games, you can. That will pretty much, I think, take us beyond probably to the next pandemic. If you try to fully max out every one of them.
Yeah, probably. Because they, you know, like the original Disgaea, like I never completely completed it. I did everything but the super final boss. Bell. I did not beat him. I heard him a little bit. You know, got him down to I think it was like one. Well, no, actually, it was more like I got him down to about 4/5 health, kind of thing. And you know, had my strongest character. You know, she was level, I think, like something like 7,000. My second strongest character, I think, was like level. I think he was like level like 5 or 6, 4.5, somewhere in there. I can't remember. And most of my characters were around level 3,000, but like almost all of them, you know, short of a chain attack, did 0 damage.
Mm. Let's see, what else is going on? I guess I'm trying to see like what else is happening big game wise. Of course, we had Resident Evil 3 come out last week. Final Fantasy 7 Remake came out, which I know you are going to play that, 100%, right?
Oh yeah. I'm going to play that until I die, which would be about 2 seconds after I booted it.
We should have. Maybe I'll pick it up and we'll have like a little aneurysm counter on screen. Every time something bothers Shark, we just add a little tally to it. It'll hit like 500 by like 20 minutes in.
You can't do that to me unless I'm in voice chat with you. Because you, like, if you're going to at least put me through the torture, at least let everybody fully experience it through voice chat. Like, if I gotta suffer, it better be for something, not just text. I'll be so stunned I won't be able to type it. That won't work, El Gordo.
Needs that exposure. Let's see. What else is going on in terms of design?
If we did that, I would probably be ranting on something, and then before I'm even done with that rant, there's 5 other things I got to rant about. I keep on getting my rants interrupted by another rant.
Let's see. I did see a topic we could talk about for another day. Somebody brought back a piece about boss battles or designing great boss fights. I think that could be a really good topic for another show. Let's see. News-wise, Witcher 3 had best year ever on for 2019. You know it's bad when BlizzCon 2020 may be canceled. Let's see. If there's anything else, I know everyone's obsessed with Animal Crossing. Again, like that series just never hooked me.
Yeah, I never got into Animal Crossing either.
Let's see. I think with that, again, everybody being stuck inside means we get lots of news, but not so much news around the industry. Let's get to our first topic. Let's talk about, You want to do free to play design or multiplayer first?
Let's go. Let's go free to play.
All right. So last month we did a talk about abusive monetization when it comes to multiplayer or just games in general. And for this one, we're going to try and expand that more and talk about trying to create a balanced free to play game. And why that is very hard to do unless you really go into it from the beginning. So the thumbnail that I chose is for Marvel Contest of Champions, which Sharky has labeled my loot box simulator or my masochism simulator. And this is a game that is very much not balanced for free-to-play design. And when we talk about what free-to-play design balance is, what we're referring to is being able to create a game that is balanced both for paying players and free players. And as we all know, when most people talk about free-to-play games, mobile games, etc., it is usually balanced for the people who spend money. The more money you spend, the easier it becomes, and in many cases, as we said before, it can turn into pay-to-win design. And as we've talked about before with Ramin, a game becomes pay-to-win if people can spend money to circumvent the progress of a free player. So if it takes me 5 months of grinding to get the best character in the game, and you can spend $50 and do it, that is pretty much literally pay to win right there. And what makes this very troublesome for a lot of these games is that it very much becomes a case of the rich getting richer. You spend a lot of money, you're going to get really great stuff. You can use that great stuff to keep winning, which gives you more rewards, which makes it easier for you to keep doing it. And on the flip side, what makes this very hard is that the developer still needs to earn money at the end of the day. If everybody is playing the game for free and nobody's spending money, that's going to be a dead game.
Yep. And sadly, we see, a trend of like everybody, like, well, not everybody, but most people going for that. Oh, we'll support the paying players and won't support the free players kind of thing. We'll do everything, give every bit of, the game, and systems and whatnot to the paying players, but we won't give it to the free players because they haven't paid for it. They'll have to earn it through all the grinding and everything.
Yeah. And that's
what they fail to realize is that if you screw over all the free players, then the paying players aren't going to have anybody to play against, meaning they feel left out, and they get bored and leave the game.
Yep. Or if you completely screw your free play players, you're not going to convert them into paying players. Because, again, if your game is just brutal to play and abusive and all that, why should I give you $10 or $1?
Yeah.
And Ogoro brought up, I think, the perfect point there. And this is something we've talked about before. In order for free-to-play design to work, you have to understand that balance between money or pay. Because people value these two elements differently. For one person, paying $1 for a free-to-play game is like pulling teeth. But they will happily grind every day, every night, just to move the needle forward. Just as there's somebody who will gladly give you $100 if it means I can just immediately get this great item. I don't have to worry about any other problems. But again, you have to treat your game from both sides of the spectrum.
You know the saying, time is money. Money is time. Yeah. Kind of thing. And it is very much true. But the thing is it doesn't just convert. You can't just convert time into money or money into time.
And that right there is what a lot of AAA developers have tried to do. That idea of you can either play this game for 60 hours or it's just $5 more.
Yeah.
And the problem, again, is that people, again, value these two elements differently. Telling me to spend an extra 2 days playing a map to get a new weapon doesn't really bother me all that much. Telling me that I need to spend $25 extra to get it, that's going to bother me. But again, somebody else could be the opposite.
Yep. Or I know one game that one of my friends tell me about that, like you could spend $25 to get this one thing, or you could grind for like 2 hours and get it for free.
Yeah, and
at that point, it's like, why would you pay $25 for that?
Yeah, that just seems completely off there.
Yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm.
Either they're charging way too much, or they're giving way too easy away.
Yeah. And like we said, at the end of the day, the developer needs to get paid. You can't just release a free-to-play game and support that for 10 years and not make 1 cent. Unless Disney is footing the bill for that, it's not going to last.
Yeah, you can't just not get paid, because you like a paid game, like any kind of game that's not a hobbyist game, you have to get paid for it.
Yep.
And if you're not getting paid for it, then you can't make other games, which means you go out of business. And you don't want to just make one game. So you've got to make money, but you don't need to make all of the money. And you also don't need to mistreat your consumers, because, again, if you mistreat your consumers in the first game, why are they going to go to your second? Even if you got the money to make the second, why are they going to go to it? Because you mistreated them. I mean, there's some people who are masochistic that will definitely go to the second game because, that. But, like, why would your normal people who don't like getting abused go into the next game, kind of thing?
Yep. And again, it's that a lot of developers, or a lot of the free-to-play side, go for the slash and burn mentality, that we're just going to earn all the money we can in the short run, and then we don't care beyond that.
Yep. And a lot of AAAs are going at that rate.
Mm-hmm. So, for the thumbnail, again, I chose Contest of Champions, which, the strangest thing, I looked this up just before the stream, it's been going on for 6 years now. I did not think that game was that old. That may be like one of the longest running free-to-play mobile games, I think. Or outside, like Clash of Clans, Farmville kind of area.
Could be.
So, with Contest of Champions, this is a game that is definitely not...
Hello?
There you go, headset back. This is a game that is definitely not balanced for the free player. And they hit you with every monetization tactic that's in the book. You have an energy system. There, it becomes pay or wait. There are loot boxes. There is a monthly subscription that gives you more resources and benefits each day if you want to play it. There is, multiplayer that, the top players get access to the best rewards, which again allows them to do more in the world. And it gets even more insidious than this. And this is what I was talking about in that video, or when I was talking about this previously, that I was watching people play high-end play of Contest of Champions. And I'm talking the game has 6 story chapters, and I was watching chapter 6 events. So what they do is they push that needle, or they push that scale so far on the AI side, it's not even funny. This would make a balanced game developer, this would be aneurysm causing. So what they do is, during one of the boss fights, the boss gains an ability that every 25 seconds they will recover full health unless you hit the enemy with a debuff, and a DOT debuff, or damage over time. So this is a guy who has hundreds of thousands of health points. So here's what you have to realize: in order to have any chance to beat that fight, You need not only a high-ranking character, but you need a high-ranking character who can counter the boss, who can also do damage over time. So if you don't have even just one character, you literally cannot beat this boss. You cannot move forward in the story. And yeah, like that is just, a killer for a free-to-play person.
Yeah. There's so many abusive ways to do it. And see, the thing is most of the models now are those abusive models, kind of thing. And I think not all the people even intended to do an abusive model. I think it was more like, oh, we're doing a free-to-play model, let's do what everybody else does, kind of thing.
And because it works. And that's the big thing. Like we've said before, this stuff works really, really well. If it didn't work, nobody would be using it.
It works in the way of getting money. It doesn't work in the way of being a good game or helping, being, having a good consumer base that likes you, kind of thing. Like you'll have this consumer base, but they will absolutely hate you. At least a large majority of them will. 99% or more will hate you. And I don't think, I hope that nobody here watching here is, come here to try to, their goal is not to make a good game, but rather to get rich and screw over lots of people. I mean, in which case, I would actually not suggest, game development. I would suggest,
casino?
Casino wouldn't be necessarily, unless you own the casino, in which case, going off of the casino thing, there's the Raid Shadow Legends that they've done a deep dive into it, and actually found out that the head owners of Raid Shadow Legends own casinos, as well as like they're like the top the owner of it is also like on the board of casino things. I forget what the official thing was, but he's on the board of keeping casinos around, kind of thing. Like, and he's the head over Raid Shadow Legends, and Raid Shadow Legends in every way is a casino, kind of thing.
Unfortunately, I am not really surprised or shocked at that expose right there. That the guy who runs the big casino game runs a casino. Dun dun dun. And
the board over casinos.
Damn, that would be like if a shark is running a beach and he's also asking for more wildlife to go into the water.
Yeah.
There's no problem with the water. Everyone just jump in.
Yeah, exactly.
And the issue, again, when it comes to this kind of design, is trying to find that happy medium. Because, like, if you post something on Gamasutra, for instance, you will get people coming out of the woodwork saying, it's perfectly fine. We're giving the player freedom of choice and surprise mechanics. And I can just throw a few more air quote phrases that people have tried to convince me that this kind of design is good. And the problem, like we said, like this one makes us very hard to talk about, and this is what we discussed with Ramin. Just because you give something free to the player or give like some amenity towards a free player, that doesn't make your game, fair and balanced. Like we've said, like one of the more popular, defenses people have said is the use of milling. The idea that if you get something that you can use, we'll, take that resource and give you something that you can spend something else. The problem is that, let's say I mill, I open up a loot box and I get mill of 100 resources, and it costs 20,000 of that resources to even get a chance to roll another loot box again.
To get the same 100.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and with your whole thing about we're giving players choice. I mean, you're giving them the choice to suck really bad and suffer
Mm-hmm.
and go through horribleness and hate you for it, or the choice to give you all their money and be happy with the game, but be very unhappy that they gave you all their money.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not what they call a choice. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's a decision to be made. I mean, the choice would be rather to not play your game. That would be the choice.
Yeah.
The choice isn't one bad thing or the other. That's. I mean, would you consider let's you know let's see if we can get demonetized here. Would you rather go back in the days of night and have a choice between you can either be hung or you can be decapitated? Which is your choice? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
which way do you want to go? I mean, we're giving players choice.
Yeah.
Which way do they want to go?
And the issue, of course, is that, as we've said before, these aren't one-time purchases. That's never the case. It's, you spend a little bit here, now you have to spend it again and again. And like again, with something like a Contest of Champions, they keep releasing new champions. So if you want to remain competitively viable or get the best stuff, guess what? You're going to need to open up those brand new loot boxes. So I hope you've saved up enough premium currency.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like we've said, just because your game has a free route to it doesn't absolve you of all these issues. Like, to give you an example, like I was saying, with Contest of Champions, I was watching a pro level player, somebody who's been playing this game pay wise for I think 5-6 years now. He's been there for a very long time. So he decided to see how far he could get in 7 days of playing the game on a free account. And he got incredibly far. And I'm sure somebody will probably use that as an example of, you don't need to spend money. Look what this guy did. But you have to understand, one, he knows the entire system inside and out. He knows the best ways of playing this game. He knows the best characters. Point
Mm-hmm.
two, he knows what events, he knows what to maximize. Because again, he's been playing this game for 6-7 years. And a lot of that time he spent getting. The third point, he got very lucky with his loot boxes. I watched him. He drew one of the best characters in the game as a 4-star character. And that one guy propelled him through almost like 75% of the normal content in that game. So yeah, it's fair to free players if you're immensely lucky and you've played the game for 5 years already. It's perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Just get good.
Yeah, get good and get lucky. Get
There.
good at getting lucky.
Exactly. There we go. And when we are talking about this kind of monetization, or like, let's switch gears for a minute, because again, we could certainly spend an hour talking about abusive monetization. Let's talk about when it's good, because
Mm-hmm.
the sad part is that there are far fewer examples of good monetization than there are bad. So
Exactly.
I have two in my mind, but I'm going to throw it to you, Shark. Can you think of good examples of monetization, whether it's in a free to play or a AAA game, that was not abusive?
As of specific examples, not off the top of my head, but like I do know some things that some people did. Like I know that some games went with the donation model to where they were completely free kind of thing, and then they just had a little donation link where you could donate and support the developers kind of thing. And that didn't go over well. Like
Mm-hmm.
people liked it. It was fair to all the players and everything, but the developers didn't make hardly any money at
Yeah.
all. And it went down pretty hard kind of thing. But it was a good game. It was good monetization. It just wasn't monetized enough to support the developers kind of thing.
Yep.
While there was others that were, gave a completely free game kind of thing, and they did nothing but ads kind of thing, and supported the game that way. And tons of people complained about the ads, and the ads didn't pay very much. You should know that from YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And they were both broke, and people were complaining about the ads, kind of thing.
Yeah. So for my examples, one of them, of course, is what Laura mentioned earlier with Game Newell Team Fortress 2. Probably was one of the first games really. It went from retail to free to play to having its own in-game store. And what they did was essentially say, we're going to let the game drop just about everything. It's going to be a random drop. If you want to buy something specifically, if you want that one weapon, that one, hat, I don't think this is working. Test, test. We should be back with the stream here. Well, I'll have to edit this part out.
Movies.
Yep. Pantomime. There we go. Yeah, it definitely went out that time. Alright, hopefully things are right, at least with the sound. Let me see. I just want to double check a few things really fast here. I know sometimes, there we go. I just want to make sure it all sounds good on Discord too. Alright, there we go. Alright, so back to what we were saying. And I completely forgot my train of thought. Do you remember what we were saying about free to play?
You were talking about
good.
Some examples.
Yeah. So with Team Fortress, the major point about it is that you can spend real money in it, or you can just play normally. And again, the big thing about Team Fortress, and I think why it's set up so like that, is that the game was originally conceived as a real retail game. It was not a game where you were supposed to have pay or wait elements or things like that. 1 second there. Okay, I think that should be better, hopefully. And because of that, and the fact it wasn't designed originally to make money along those lines, they went for more of a fairer approach to it. Now, the other example, of course, is Warframe. Warframe, like we've said, is kind of the antithesis of these kinds of free-to-play games. And the reason is that it is a very grind-heavy game. It was designed to be that way. The shop is fully integrated. But there is nothing progress-wise that you are forced to spend money on. And it has so many interconnected systems that it kind of helps it.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I thought my headset went out again.
I didn't think you were done yet.
Let's see.
So, why don't we talk about what what defines good and bad kind of thing in
Mm-hmm.
these kind of designs?
Mm-hmm.
Like one thing that I think really defines good and bad is paywalls kind of thing. Like paywalls are
Mm-hmm.
bad.
Yeah.
Not having paywalls is obviously good, kind of thing. Like when
Mm-hmm.
you have paywalls, when you're separating, when you're blocking people from that content through whether it's through absorbent amount of grind,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's through they have to pay money, whether it's just cosmetics that are getting put behind that paywall, whatever it is that's getting behind that paywall, and large amount of grind kind of thing, whatever it is, that's always bad to have a paywall. You don't
Mm-hmm.
want to have a paywall. You want to if it's a free to play game because actually I don't think you want to paywall on anything, but you don't want to paywall in a free to play game specifically because that's where you're forcing that conversion of time to money kind of thing, or
Mm-hmm.
you know or five, like they got to grind for you know 3 years to get this one item, or they could just pay $5 for it kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That forcing having that paywall there just is just and it's not 100% paywall, but it is still a paywall because grinding is a wall. It's it's a wall that can be climbed, but it's still a wall kind of thing.
Yeah.
And just paywalls in general are really really bad.
Yeah. And to Ogoro's point about, of course, Path of Exile. Path of Exile is another, I think, standout example. And again, it came out. If there was ever a case of the perfect game being released at the right time, it would be Path of Exile. Everyone was pissed off about Diablo 3. Here's a free version of the game that's better. And
Mm-hmm.
they just got all the goodwill that Blizzard threw them all their goodwill to Path of Exile. It was very nice of them to do that, right?
Yeah, if there's some more in there with China.
Yep. And to your point about paywall, that again is one of those things that developers don't like to talk about because again, it is very much seeing the pay to win aspects of your game in full and front center. No developer in their right mind will ever say you must spend exactly $15.99 every 4 hours or you will not be able to progress. Nobody's going to do that. But
Mm-hmm.
there are implicit paywalls. This can be when there are difficulty spikes. In Contest of Champions, for instance, when you get to chapter 4 of their story, they introduce this concept called you're battling these various nodes. You go to a node, you fight, you have a battle, you move on to the next node. They introduce this idea of nodes supercharging other nodes. So if you don't go fight, this guy over here, when you go to fight this guy, he'll have 100% more health and do, 5 times more damage. And this is where it gets a lot harder. It's a massive jump to the difficulty of the game. And this would certainly be a case where a paywall would come into place. Another big point, if there's any kind of rarity system in your game, and you suddenly see that jump where, excuse me, the normal or the easy acquired characters are no longer viable. Again, in Contest of Champions, you're going to get lots of 3-star characters, and they'll be good for the first 2 or 3 chapters of the game. When you get to chapter 4, if you're trying to do the bonus challenges for better resources, it's 4-star or bust. And then eventually, you're going to be 4-star characters are going to be worthless for you. Then it's going to be 5-star as the minimum, 6-star is the great. And again, there is always that possibility. This is the beauty of this kind of design. They could implement a 7-star character at some point.
Yeah, and paywall definitely includes just cosmetics because a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
have kind of gave that one the
Oh
pass,
yes.
and they shouldn't because it's still a paywall. If you cannot get cosmetics by any other way, than paying for them. That is a paywall. It is exactly the same, exactly just as abusive as the other.
And
it's just done in a different way.
And let me add on to that, because people will say, oh, it's not gameplay affecting, so yes, it's fine to only charge money for that. No, that's not how it works anymore. As we've said, people define themselves by their characters, hence why these personalization options are such a big deal. And there are games where people will make fun or, insult people if they are using the default skins. Haha, I'm using the super deluxe Deadpool skin or whatever. I know Fortnite's been advertising they have a Deadpool event going on right now, and you're still using the scrub basic character. Again,
yeah, and there's been cases in school where people have gotten bullied because of that.
Oh yeah, I would believe that. And again, people will say, well, it's not affecting how you play the game, so it must be fine. No. If anything is locked exclusively to pay or to premium currency, that is a problem.
Yeah, and the thing is it's not fine because arguably it's worse, because there's been studies done where they've analyzed, like pay to win games versus paid cosmetics and everything, versus gameplay versus cosmetic kind of thing. And the effect is that the gameplay stuff was actually less effective than the cosmetics.
Oh yeah.
The cosmetics caused a greater effect because not only did it, affect like in-game interactions kind of thing between players kind of thing, pushing them to get more into it and get more buy more cosmetics, but it affected real life and where they got bullied, picked on, all kinds of other things. Where with the pay to win, people just got pissed off inside the game. Where you got like double pissed off, kind of thing in the cosmetics. So like the cosmetic paywall is worse than pay to win.
Yeah.
And that's sad kind of thing, and people are accepting that kind of thing now, and we don't need to be accepting that kind of thing. Like, and it's not better; it's worse.
Yeah. And I can see why, because again, buying a new mission or a new gun in a game, that is just for you. You're not having other people look at you while you're doing, level 7 in a super challenging grind or raid. But when you're with a party or you're with a group, they're going to be looking at your character. We've said this before. Fashion souls is a very big point. I mean, just imagine how much money From Software could make if they sold cosmetic packs for their games.
Yeah, I mean, the people that are going to be people are going to be judging you. People don't care how far you made into the game unless you beat it, kind of thing.
They care what your character looks like.
Yeah, in which case of beating it, they really don't care on that either. They're like, good for you, kind of thing. Now then, what you look like, they definitely care about that. Like, like even in games where, we're not talking about paid cosmetics, where you just get character creators kind of thing. You make your character, and they're going to judge you based on that. They're going to say, oh, he made a crappy looking character kind of thing. Let's not hang out with him kind of thing. Or, holy crap, this guy made the most derpy thing that he can. This guy must be really cool because he's, going out of his way to make something extra derpy kind of thing. Or he made this amazing character that looks amazing kind of thing. This guy must be cool, kind of thing. And like, everyone, if you're not extremely, purposely for the derp or like you make something really high quality, you're not going to be on the end.
Yeah.
The up and out kind of thing. You're going to be the downtrodden because you didn't get good at making characters.
Yeah. Or if you get
for that,
you get some kind of exclusive, profile picture, or you get like a banner around your character. Something that says to people, this person has been playing this game, or this person spent a lot of money.
Like the VIP badges.
Oh yes, definitely. And yeah, again, like this kind of stuff, like for our audience, we have a lot of core gamers watching this and developers. And I'm sure they're chuckling, under their breath, oh, somebody's stupid enough to spend $20 for a cape. Or, $5 so their banner has little sparkles on it. But this stuff works. It works incredibly well. And as Ramin said, like we're getting into basically neurochemistry and affecting how somebody perceives things.
Yep. You're playing with their emotions basically, and by playing with their emotions, you're playing with their bank account.
Yeah. And again, when it comes, I think this is another big point, and this is what we talk about with abuse of monetization. When it gets bad, it's when the player feels like they're being forced or pressured into spending money or spending time in this game. Because that's another big point. There are games that will punish you if you don't log on every day. In the other one I play, that Marvel Strike Force, I'm constantly getting alerts. Oh, you gotta sign in and do a raid. You have to do, a PvP match or stuff like that. And guess what? Like we've said, I'm still busy. This pandemic has not magically given me 15 more hours a day to do other stuff. But that's what these games want.
We need to draw, kind of a line here. Forcing people to come in is bad. Inviting them in and giving them a reason to come in is good, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like don't be like, oh, if you don't come in today, you can't get this kind of thing. I mean, people have vacations, they have life, they have work, they have all this kinds of stuff. Now, if you say, hey, you get this bonus today, and you can come in if you want, but if you come in tomorrow, the bonus will still be here, kind of thing. And maybe after 3-4 days, kind of thing, the bonus will go away. But as long as you come in within 3 or 4 days,
like
kind of thing,
1 to 3 days, 2 to 6, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that bonus will be there, and it'll be waiting for you, kind of thing.
And I've said this before, like I despise real-world timers in games. It is the one mechanic that I will never enjoy. I hate that system, whether it's in a retail game or a free-to-play game. I don't want the game telling me you must sign in at precisely 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. or you don't get a reward. Or because you didn't play the game yesterday, your entire squad is dead. Now you're being punished because you had a life.
Yeah. Well, what about a real time where you like from the original Final Fantasy VII, where they set up a bomb kind of thing? You set up a bomb yourself, and then it started counting down the timer, and you had so much time to get out, and you had to get out in that time. What about that real life timer?
Well, I think that's fine because it's a limit. That's a short-term event. It's like 15 minutes or 20 minutes kind of thing.
I think it's 20.
Yeah, so I mean that's part of your play. What I mean is, like, if the game says, oh, guess what? This event is ending at precisely 3 a.m. in the morning. I hope you're on around 2 to defend yourself, or you're not going to get the best rewards.
Yeah.
And it's another, like, that is also why I just do not play any of the State of Decay games. That they use real timers to say, oh, if you don't log in, one of your people can get sick and die. Or you need to log and make sure your people are producing ammo so that when you start playing for real, you'll have all the resources you need.
Yeah. So let me tell you what I'm doing right now around timers and whatnot. It's not actually timers of sorts. It's more or less scheduling kind of thing. So in Project Triad kind of thing, we're going to have tournaments. And obviously, to make those work, people have to be on at the same time kind of thing. So what they can do is they can sign up for a specific tournament at a specific time. You pick which tournament you want at the time, that it's there. Of course, that may not be available, and then you'll have to go with a different time kind of thing. But you should be able to find one tournament in the time that you want kind of thing. And you can, set this up, and it's a specific time, specific date. Where, it's like setting an appointment, for a doctor kind of thing. and you're supposed to be there during that time. If you don't show up for some reason, I mean, you whatever
You
you paid,
forfeit or you
yeah,
disqualify.
you forfeit slash disqualified kind of thing from it. But like, I mean, you're not punished, other than if it was a paid event or whatever, you lost your money or whatever
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. But that's to be expected, kind of thing. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
cancel your reservations at a hotel or whatever
Yeah.
last minute, you're not going to get your money back, kind of thing. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you cancel it in advance
Yeah.
before everything has gone on too far, then yeah, you'll get your money back. Well, some places, but with Project Triad, that
Mm-hmm.
will be a thing. I'm unsure what the exact time limit is. It would probably vary by the tournament, kind of
Yeah.
thing. All kinds of depends there, but like do plan on if people cancel soon enough that they would be able to get their money back, kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think another big point is that the player should be informed well in advance about these kinds of things. It shouldn't be, the tournament is going to start tomorrow kind of thing. Like somebody should know like week or weeks in advance that we're going to have something at this time for this set of period for it.
Yeah, but then we're also going to have like other tournaments that they can set up, kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
and they set it up, and whatever rules and everything they want to set up for it and everything, qualifications, like this is how much prize pool we want, this is going to be how many people enter, this is going to be the cost, kind of thing. Of course, they won't have full control over that because it'll be based off of basically the cost will be based off of the number of players and the prize pool, kind of thing. But like and let them set stuff up themselves and make their own kind of things,
Mm-hmm.
besides official tournaments, kind of thing. And we're going to have like several official tournaments, kind of thing. And we're it is a timed mechanic, kind of thing, but it's you pick your time, kind of thing, rather than here's the time we set for you, have fun, and if you don't show up, you're punished, kind of thing. You didn't, for this tournament, you have to, physically go in and sign up for it, kind of thing. It's not just, thrust upon you as if something you have to do. It's a option to do, kind of thing. So you have the choice to do it or not do it, and then when you do it, there's a choice between which ones you want to do, because you can sign up for multiple, at least in most cases. There will be some limitations, and then like you when you sign up for them, you get to pick which times you want. But make sure that you sign up for one that is in a good time for you.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I mean, things do happen. People aren't able to make it sometimes. Life happens. You sign up for a tournament, a week in advance, and then there's a car wreck and you have to go to the hospital, kind of thing. Can't make it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Life happens, but like hopefully, they whatever happens, they're able to cancel in time, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And even if not, like we'll have as a support team, and can make exceptions in certain cases, kind of thing.
Yep. And again, I think ultimately, like for this topic, the player should never feel like they're being punished or forced to spend money. And there is a lot to unpack with that one sentence. It's not that easy to, what I just said there. That's not something you're going to solve in one day. And typically, I think maybe, I'm not sure if you'll agree with me on this point, that the games that work in terms of their monetization usually figure it out, or they're usually built from the ground up to accommodate their monetization systems.
Yes and no. Like
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like the monetization system is built from usually the ground up, kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. I mean, the game is you build it as you're building the game, kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing, but not necessarily at the same time, or in a certain order, kind of thing. Like we had for Project Triad, we had the demo, had you played and everything before I'd even figured out the monetization model kind of thing. We had gotten our core gameplay loop down. And, it was after that point where we came up with the theme and where we started the monetization development and figuring out how that works. You definitely do not want to tack the monetization system at the end kind of thing, because then it just feels tacked on. It's all pretty much always abusive kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But, it doesn't have to be, right at the beginning or, in any certain point kind of thing. It definitely needs to be before the end kind of thing. Yeah. But I would say probably no later than 2/3 of the way done with the game, you should have your monetization solid kind of thing.
It's something I think like multiplayer that it should, in the best case scenario, be developed simultaneously with your core gameplay loop. Again, it's not something you want to wait until your game is 75% done and say, okay, what monetization system are we going to use? And again, this is, I think, another one of those big points. If you remember the MMO crash of the early thousands, that so many online or MMO style games went free to play, and they just all immediately tacked on the same monetization systems. And a lot of them just failed because the games just don't really support them.
Yeah, remember what we said earlier about if you copy somebody else's game and you don't do it better than them, then guess what? You're going to fail. Same thing goes with monetization models.
Yeah.
And you don't want to just copy people, and you definitely don't want to copy free-to-play models because almost all of them are bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, I am creating a brand new free-to-play model right now with my game, and there's no telling if it's going to be successful or not, kind of thing. But we'll have to wait to see how it works out, kind of thing. But my goal is to, make it monetarily successful at the same time of being a good model for people to to stand out to people and be like, hey, this is how you should do it, kind of thing. And off of that, I think we need to jump into a little bit of the loot box part of this conversation with the free to play kind of thing. And the thing about loot boxes and whatnot, loot boxes themselves are bad because of how you defined a loot box. Mm-hmm. But there are variations off of loot boxes that are not bad, kind of thing, and are not technically loot boxes because they're defined differently, because a loot box is something that is 100% random. There's no set rarities. There's no set anything. It's just 100% random, and usually the odds are, and pretty much always the odds are skewed into the developer's favor, and they're paid only. They're they have manipulated odds. They have
and why so many developers are very hesitant to put the actual drop rates on them.
Yeah, which are now becoming laws in places,
Yeah.
And but let's look at a something very similar to a loot box that is not a loot box, that is not abusive, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Like play Diablo, play Path of Exile. You open up a box, you open up a chest, you kill an enemy, and they drop completely random items, kind of thing, at random rarities, kind of thing, but they're not charged for it. The difference there is the random rarities and everything would be a bad thing if they were charging for it. But since they aren't charging for it, it's not bad, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then let's look at another example of physical card games that do go through the gambling commission, kind of thing. They do charge for them and everything, but they do not have random rarities. They have, that when you open up a booster pack, that you're going to get one rare, three
Or
uncommons, five commons,
yeah.
and a full card that has a 1 in 6 chance of being an extra rare kind of thing, or something along that lines. You know exactly what you get. Every pack is exactly the same kind of thing in that regards kind of thing, and it's all listed on one of the packaging, either the box or the pack. And you're selling them specific rarities, and the rarities do not determine the value of the card necessarily, because the free market does that. What determines, but they do determine what the base value is of a rare, uncommon, that. And if your pack's $3 and you're giving this amount of cards, rare's probably worth $1, the full probably 50 cents or whatever. Uncommons, your three uncommons together probably about 50 cents, and your commons are the tax that you paid for it kind of thing. Or something like that. I just throw out a bunch of numbers. I don't even know if that comes out to be $3, but they're giving you specific value, rarity value, not specific individual card value.
Yep.
And they're selling you for a very specific price, and it's what you're getting, and there is a value for that kind of thing.
And I've a whole loot box and RPGs. I already have a video I have edited, so I'm not talking about that now because I already spent 30 minutes ranting about that one in the video. But again, with the point about like those kinds of loot boxes, like this is that issue that a lot of these free-to-play games run into. That, as you said, it can be anything. There are no guarantees. With Contest of Champions, they have two distinct loot boxes for how characters drop. They have the guaranteed gems, or guaranteed crystals. Those will 100% drop a 3-star, a 4-star, a 5-star, whatever character. And those are incredibly hard to come by, again, for obvious reasons. The ones most people are going to open are those that will pull from multiple star rarities. So the basic one is it will drop a 2, a 3, or a 4-star. The other one will drop a 4, a 5, and a 6. So what they do, though, is that when you open up one of those crystals, the drop rate is something like this. 70% chance for a 2-star, 20% chance for a 3-star, and 5% chance for a 4-star. So I can open up 50 of these crystals, and I may get nothing that I can use. Absolutely, positively nothing of value, because there is no consistency there. And I remember when we had that discussion about Hearthstone, they ran into an issue. Or you had that same problem, that when you open up a booster pack, it doesn't guarantee you. You could get 2 legendaries in one pack. You get no legendaries in another pack, and so on.
Yeah. And you go look at Hearthstone, where they guarantee you what they call a rare that's actually uncommon in one pack. And one of your 5 cards is going to be that, and then the other 4 are going to be completely random rarities, and most likely commons.
Yep. Did they ever get around to posting drop rates in Hearthstone?
Not as far as I know of. They're still waiting on regulation for that one.
Yeah.
And that's what. That's another aspect, is like the drop rate. They need the gambling commission, that physical card games go through, have to clarify the drop rate of rarities kind of thing. That's the reason why they're listed on the back package. They're not required to list the specific card drop rates within each rarity kind of thing. But most card games do that pretty evenly kind of thing, because they just print off a sheet and there's just as many of this rare as there is this rare. There are exceptions to that, but generally they do that so that all the rares are equally rare kind of thing.
Yeah. And again, the problem, though, Like, and this, I think one of those. This could be, I think, its own topic. I would love to talk to somebody at like Wizards of the Coast or a major like a physical CCG, or I'm sorry, just a physical card game maker about these kinds of issues. But as you just said, when we talk about physical games, it is being manufactured. There is an actual production line that is printing out these cards. So when they say that 1 out of 6 cards in a booster pack is, going to be super rare, that's how it's being cut and, done at the plant. When we talk about a digital game or a CCG along these lines, it's all code. There are no, there's no such real thing as a drought or, limited cards, because the game generates these cards. And I know, as you were talking about with me with Project Triad, that you're trying again to have like its own economy system, and that is definitely a topic beyond what we have time to talk about today.
Yeah, the one thing that we were doing is so how RNG can completely screw you over, kind of thing.
No, never.
So what we've done is, when you're talking about a digital card game versus a physical, you have RNG picking the cards, kind of thing, where you have RNG in real life, but RNG in real life is based off of what cards were printed, kind of thing.
Yep.
Where RNG off of game is just completely random, rather than random off of whatever is printed, kind of thing. So what we're trying to do is simulate that printing kind of thing by putting out putting a box here with like 5 of each rare and 5 of each uncommon and 5 of each common and 5 of each of this, 5 of each of that, kind of thing. And so when RNG pulls, it'll only pull from these boxes, and these boxes will not get any more cards added until they're empty, kind of thing. Yeah. So that those are basically our printed sheets, essentially.
I guess I just want to clarify something what you just said. So does that mean that when somebody pulls a loot, let's say somebody buys a booster pack in Project Triad, does the game generate the cards that come from that booster pack when the person buys it, or the booster pack's essentially like pre-filled with their cards, in a manner of speaking?
It'll fill when they buy it.
Okay.
So like when they buy it, it'll pull out from those boxes, kind of thing. And at least it should, we're still in development, kind of thing. But this is the way I've got it planned to work. So things are subject to change. But the way when they buy the pack, the instant that they buy it is when it instantly starts pulling from each of these boxes, and it'll have a code basically that it's assigned to it that has these specific things. And this code won't be viewable or anything. And when you get that pack, if you open it up later, you open it up, right when you get it, it will still have the same exact cards in it.
Okay.
That will not change, kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like they're pulling from these boxes and everything, and it's done that way in a way that keeps RNG from going out of control by simulating the printed sheets, because the boxes, kind of thing.
Yeah. And yeah, I think to Alura's point, you're going to have to prove that to people, like that. Somebody, at least 50 people are going to call your game pay to win. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And like, here's my last one. Then we're going to move on to weird games. Because again, this is a topic we can certainly explore with more subtopics. This is again the issue that I feel with these like loot boxes. We seem like people who play these loot box games, they get so excited about opening up the boxes. It is entirely manufactured. Like, again, with Cons of Champions, they show a roulette going around, what you can possibly win. That has already been determined. Like, it infuriates me when I watch, like, streamers and YouTubers are like, oh my god, I'm just going to wait for the right moment. I'm going to hit the button. It's going to be this amazing thing. No. The second you hit buy or you hit open, your choice has been made already.
Yeah.
But I think with that, to wrap up this part for me, that again, if you're trying to balance the free-to-play aspects of a game, it all goes back to that conversation or that discussion with Gabe Newell, that people value time and they value money, but they value it in different quantities. And you have to make your game fair for both. It's okay to charge people money if free-to-play players have a way to get around there to make use of that. If you literally put in your game, this is the best weapon in the game, you can only get it by spending $85, people are going to run away from that game. Likewise, if you say, this is the best gun in the game, you can either spend $85 or spend 5 years grinding for it, yeah, people are still going to get pissed off at you.
Yeah. And let me hit on 2 points. Number one, like, our card packs are still going to be flashy and everything, and because like they have to be any kind of competitive and everything, and you're going to be able to pull the cards out one at a time and actually look at what you're getting, kind of thing, rather than just like just here's all your cards kind of thing. There's an option that you can push at, kind of thing, but like we want that excitement to be there because you pretty much have to be, kind of thing. And on the other thing of the best cards, kind of thing, being set up and everything, and the way we are kind of doing that is we're trying to make like basically the best cards in the game in the starter deck, kind of thing. So that there's absolutely no RNG, and just pick the starter deck and you buy it, kind of thing. And you can buy it for you can earn it free, or you can buy it with straight up currency, or you can earn. There's many different ways to get one, but the point is it's no paywall, kind of thing.
Yeah. And Agordo earlier mentioned Artifact, the Valve digital CCG game they were trying to make, and I did not get to play that one, and a part of me really wants to check that out just to see how it failed. Is it even still available, like, to buy? Let's see. Because now I'm really okay, it's still available. And I think another big point, again, is that the game, I can already tell like one thing right off the bat. You have to buy the game, and then there's a monetization on top of that. And that's a topic, I think, easily for another day. Games that try to double dip on their monetization systems.
Yeah. And to what Mr. Elrod said, we're not doing it. It's not overcomplicated. It's just, we're filling up boxes. All you got to do is, it's like you just take, X amount of cards and you fill up a box, kind of thing. And then just let RNG pull from those boxes. It's not overcomplicated at all. It's just, render, not even render, but spawn, a list over here, kind of thing, and then draw from that list. It's just simple list making or array or whatever it is. I'm unsure exactly programming terms, but it's just generating an array or a list and letting the RNG draw from that kind of thing.
Yeah. And Allura brought up a really important point. This will be the final thing, then we're going to move on, because we'll be here all day. The price of entry is another very big point about these kinds of free-to-play and monetized games. Because I've seen, again, I still remember this story about a CEO of a major free-to-play company was arguing with me that their game should be considered legitimate and should be more respected because they had a tournament of high-level players who didn't have to spend 1 cent to get into it. And my argument was, how much did they spend to get to that point to begin with? And like we've said, one of the major aspects of bad monetization design is that rich getting richer effect. That once I've spent $100, I have the best characters. Because I have the best characters, I'm going to do a lot better and get more free resources. And again, it goes back to that paywall. That idea that, I must, in order to have any chance of playing this game, I have to spend at least $500. And then after that, then it's all, hunky dory and wonderful. But that still doesn't excuse the fact that the free game essentially has a $500 buy-in.
Yeah, like that reminds me of a story from a browser game I used to play.
Mm-hmm.
Very abusive one kind of thing. Back before I knew even better. But like they, like I heard so many stories of people, that were really strong and everything, and all they did was spend like 20, 50, $100 on like day one kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then they built upon it and just train rode their way up to the top kind of thing. Where like other people, they didn't buy stuff on day one. They waited till like day,
Mm-hmm.
200 or
Yep.
day 100 or day 30 or whatever, and then they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't get up to the top. They got near the top, but not up to the top.
Yep.
And then I've heard, there's me who didn't spend anything and just completely dissected all the mechanics, min-maxed everything. And after a year or two of grinding and just min-maxing perfectly and everything, and doing the right things in the right order and just manipulating the mechanics in every way I could, I eventually got up into the top 10, but like barely.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I was like 8th or something.
Yep. And oh yeah, that's another really big point about the games that will reward people who play the beta or first timers get massive rewards. And I already told my story about that. So I think we'll move on and get to some weird games. And then let us discuss. We'll move on and talk about going all in on multiplayer. Let me get the example up here. Alright, so this is one that just immediately popped up. If you look right there, that game Amendium, like the thumbnail doesn't look that bad. It looks like it's a very clear and concrete thumbnail for that game, right? Well, I already looked at what this game is, and let me show you what the actual game looks like.
Uh-oh.
Get your red flag warning going.
I got
This
my
is the
red
very
flags
first
going.
thumbnail.
Loading. Ugh.
There we go.
Like, I mean, the thumbnail looked like it was like for some anime game or something.
Or like an RPG.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this thumbnail right here. You can tell exactly what's happening. Don't you love that one there? It looks like that Shuriken Aliens game.
Yeah.
Oof.
To Mr. Elrod, Rude, they pull. So basically, the boxes are basically a razor list kind of thing. But then RNG is going to pull from those lists. It's going to pull like one rare, like, let's say 2 uncommons, 5 or so commons, and 1 full from the full box kind of thing. So they'll be pulling from each of those boxes, but they'll only be pulling a certain amount, one from the rare, 1 from the full, 1 from, 2 from the common, 5 from the, I can't remember the exact pack ratio. Matter of fact, it's not even finished yet, but like, I can't remember the exact one that I have right now kind of thing. But then once all that stuff is pulled kind of thing, right when they buy it, it generates basically a code or whatever that is, or a list basically in the pack, which will say exactly what has been pulled for it kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when they open a pack, it'll be that list, whatever they pulled originally when they bought it kind of thing.
This is a game. I gotta say, the aesthetics don't look that bad. I do like right there, 100 enemy here, you die. But I'm not seeing anything else. Ooh, as interesting battle mechanics.
I am seeing an issue with the ground. The ground does not match everything else.
Let's see.
But other than that, like, it could be a workable Uh,
What is this? Infinite Abyss. Create machines. Manage your actions that your robots develop. Looks kind of like a circular, like Terraria kind of thing.
does it? Doesn't to me.
Let's see,
Not see
building
much base building other than like just. It seems more like almost like an RTS, brother.
or like a tower or defense kind of game.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because like Terraria, you actually Terraria, Starbound, and everything. You
Mm-hmm.
pulled up blocks and then you placed them down
Oh
like
yeah.
wait Minecraft kind of thing. Like there's none of that happening in here.
Yeah, it kind of looks like an idle game. You put the building down, then it does not. Then you're done with it. Let's see. Receiver 2. Is this what I think it is? Yes, it is. If you
Well, we
remember,
may do some generation before, and I don't know at what point all that's going to happen, but like it'll be at at or before the time you buy it.
so this is the sequel to Receiver. We played this on the Grabback stream a long time ago. And the whole point of this game is that it 100% simulates the firing and operation of a gun.
100%.
Yeah, like you have to make sure the gun is properly locked. You have to pull the slide. All kinds of other fancy gun lingo terms that I don't know.
You got to oil it up, clean
Sure, ballistics modeling, and like it's one of those games that it is aimed for a very thin niche of gamers. Apparently, it did
it.
well enough to get a sequel.
Huh.
It simulates all of the moving parts.
So it's gun simulator.
Pretty much. Yeah, it didn't work for me either. Let's see. Is this another RPG Maker game? Oh no, we looked at this one last time. Looked like looked okay. Impulse control. Will the beginning. A lot of Fallout 76 stuff. Ooh, Horse Riding Deluxe 2.
We've been hearing Fallout 76 stuff in your Discord. It's like,
Mm-hmm. Oh, we could do this one, right? Horse riding.
You need to get a key for that one. We need to see you play Horse Riding Deluxe 2.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's an RPG and a racing game. Let's see. Dead Side. Hardcore multiplayer shooter. Kind of looks like a DayZ.
Does that mean you have to grind your horse? Or
Oh, there goes the D mod. Heaven World. Oh, I was not expecting that thumbnail. Or that image. Ooh,
question
personalized.
is which way did that refer to? Because there's two ways you could go with that.
Uh-huh.
The creepy way and how would you describe it?
I'll let you
The glue
figure
factory way.
Oh, okay. Viking Heroes. Oh yeah, we looked at that one last week. Fractalis, we played that one. It's coming on to Steam. Super Bounce Ball. Bok Bok. A lot of visual novel games coming out. Guess people don't have the time to be reading. Beautiful Feet Cabin. I don't think I want to click on that one.
Oh, why don't you?
Ooh, Drug Dealer Simulator. Yes.
And that's Breaking Bad.
Mm-hmm. Spirit Island. Oof.
El Gordo said something about Quarantine Girls. I didn't see that one.
I saw it. Where did it go? I think it was on the last page. There it is, right next to My Cute Führer. That's 2 games I should totally click on.
Totally. Need to get a cage of quarantine girls. I'll just tell you that right off there.
Hell point put key. Why neon lights again? Ooh. Neon lights, nostalgic cyberpunk shooting gallery. Wait, they spelled cyberpunk wrong. It's cuberpunk.
And wait, where did they spell cyberpunk, Corey?
Right there. Retro nostalgic cuberpunk. I think we just invented something.
I'm not seeing it.
It is.
Right. Oh, I see it.
There.
I was looking at the top where it says "is a nostalgic cyberpunk."
What was it? Hard rock pinball? Looked like a. Let's see.
I spelled it right in one place and wrong in another. That's.
Oh, as a slot machine within the game to test your luck.
Yeah, because that's what we need to test.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good. The slot machine is used to unlock new game tables. That's great. Because pinball doesn't have enough RNG in it.
Yeah, that's an abusive mechanic there. It's probably not even paid, but it's still abusive.
Be under percents.
See, it doesn't even have to be paid to be abusive.
What? What is this? Looks interesting. But it's one of those games that it doesn't tell you anything about what the game is.
If I had to guess, I would say there's not much of a game.
Yeah, it could be just more of like a novel. Yeah. Oh, we could click on Sexy Fitness Girl.
That sounds fun.
Oh, here's one. Shooting Blaster Big Bang Boom.
Well, we need a sexy fitness quarantine girl.
Oh, God. Ooh. We'll say a virtual board game. That is a very busy UI, though. Oh, the chicken channel.
The chicken channel? Let's see it.
Run, kitty, run. Alright, we'll look at 2 more and then we'll move on. Damn Dolls. I'm pretty sure that's going to be a horror game. Pinball Lockdown.
Pinball Lockdown?
Huh, here are the
And they just call it Quarantine Pinball.
There we go. Wait. Is this a new Hero of the Kingdom, or is this a remake? Hero of the Kingdom is kind of like a mix of an RPG with like an idle kind of design. Is it one of those games that I said it was like the perfect like rainy day game? You know, something you have time to kill and you're just looking for something to do.
Mm-hmm.
Confusion. Oh. Oh, good. A rhythm-based Kung Fu VR standalone casual game. That's a lot of words right there.
That is the greatest thing ever. It's a shame they didn't, get RPG and tactical strategy in there too.
How about Cyberpunk?
Well, they seem to get that. They didn't list it.
Wait a minute. That Devious Dungeon game that we played a few months ago, apparently they're making a sequel. That one was just
already made one.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, here's one. Jesus Strikes Back 2.
Mm-mm.
Oh, man. Mushroom Cats.
There's a right way and a wrong way to make a game of. I can guarantee you that's the wrong way because of the title.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, Untitled Puzzle Simulator. Alright. And not seeing anything to stand out this time. Let's see, what's Warsmith? Well, you can play as a speedy squirrel or a buff rabbit. One of them will let you play as a shark.
If they don't, I want my money back.
Alright. And not seeing any winners this week, unfortunately.
Not really.
Alright, so let's get to our final topic. We'll spend about 20-30 minutes on that one, hopefully. We'll see how long this one gets. And that is the risks of going all in on multiplayer games. This is something that I think has kind of dried up a little bit in recent year, but for a lot of the last decade, a lot of developers wanted to make the next multiplayer-based game. And again, for obvious reasons. They saw the money that League of Legends, Team Fortress, StarCraft, any game that brought that very competitive, very long-lasting design earned a lot of money. But the problem, though, is that just designing a multiplayer game in and of itself is very challenging. And when you're putting everything into it, there are so many little issues that come back to ruin that game.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think it's 100% what you said. Like, I don't think, everyone that gets into designing a multiplayer game is doing it because, of all the successful games. I mean, like, I'm right now, developing one, and I don't care about any of those games.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I made my multiplayer is because it was multiplayer when we first got it, kind of thing, and we could have definitely put it, move the demo into the core gameplay loop into single player, but like it wouldn't be fun that way. And I pondered and pondered for a while over the model and everything before I got it, but like I didn't want to make a game that was multiplayer. It's the game itself wanted to be multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
It was in that direction. So like, I wouldn't say that necessarily, but like a lot of people are seeing money and they're going to where the money is. Just like when FTL came out, and then here comes a ton of FTL clones. Mm-hmm. When Darkest Dungeon came out, here comes a whole bunch of Darkest Dungeons clones.
And of course, the big one, when World of Warcraft blew up, everybody wanted to make the next World of Warcraft.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to, I think, a multiplayer-based game, I feel like there's several key areas where you can fail on. And if you fail on any one of these points, you're pretty much, cutting your game off at the kneecaps. So, the first one is with the gameplay. Like we just said, when a big-name game blows up, everybody tries to copy it. And like we've said many times over, by the time that game blows up, it's already too late to try and fully capitalize on, making a competitor to it. And a lot of people didn't get that memo, as we saw with all the FTL likes, Darkest Dungeon likes, even Stardew Valley likes we've gotten as well. And you have to be able to do something new. And right there, that was, I think, like point one for a lot of the MMO bus. Everyone thought, let's just copy World of Warcraft, but we'll make it Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings or The Matrix at some point. And again, why should I play your game when World of Warcraft is still bringing in, infinity billion dollars every month?
Yeah, you should never just try to copy a game and mimic their success, because it won't work.
Mm-hmm. And the second point, of course, is having a community. And I think this is the one that a lot of people don't necessarily think about, but it comes back, I think, the hardest to bite these games.
I think this is the number 1 point, not the number 2 point.
That if there aren't people to play your game, guess what? You don't have a multiplayer game. And if your game only has a multiplayer mode, it's dead. And
Mm-hmm.
this is, I think, again, very salient for a lot of people and why a lot of these games have failed. That you need a healthy community before your game is even released to make sure there's people able to play. And that means not just having hardcore people. You need casual players who are interested in learning it. You need your core staple. And you do need those hardcore. You need those, top 5 to 10% people who are kind of like the, community ambassadors or things like that.
Yeah. I don't think you necessarily have to have a community from another game before that game necessarily. But you do have to have a community before you launch the game, because day one when you launch a game, if there's not enough players to matchmake, ain't nobody playing your game. And if ain't nobody playing your game, they're uninstalling it. And if everybody's uninstalling it right after they install it, your game is dead right there on day one.
The downward spiral of multiplayer-based games is real. And again, it has killed many of these titles. Just as you said, if I go to sign in, nobody's playing the game, I'm going to uninstall it. If I'm uninstalling that game, I'm sure there's a few dozen or a few hundred people are going to install it. And very soon, your community goes from, let's say, a few thousand people to a few hundred to a few dozen, and maybe even less than that.
Well, I think it's even worse than that, because it's a downward spiral after the game. After the game has a fan base and everything, has people playing it. But before they start playing it, it's not a downward spiral. It is the Grand Canyon with a sheared off straight edge, or even a concave edge, coming in from there. There's no ledge or anything to grab onto. You're just straight off and straight down to death kind of thing. You will die so quickly. And this is something I'm trying to address right now. And, because that is instant death on day one.
Yep.
If since my game is strictly multiplayer, I am running headfirst into that inevitable doom. Now, what I'm doing to address that, since I don't have a big community, and mind you that you have to have a really big community, just to throw some numbers out to you, if you're going for an average wait time of 1 minute per match, which means that sometimes it'll be 10 minutes for wait time, and other times it'll only be like 30 seconds kind of thing. Mm-hmm. To get that kind of wait time, you're going to need 2 players for every minute for the for 24-hour period, which that is, let's see here, if we take 60 minutes times 24, and then we times that by 2 players, that is 2,880 players. Active.
Just that simple.
And and 10-minute wait, you're still going to have 10-minute wait times at times when people are less active, because you're probably going to have, instead of 2 people on it every minute, you're going to have 15 or 20 on at this minute, and 2 or 3 at this minute kind of thing.
And don't forget, of course, about international time zones as well. That you may have peak periods at 3 o'clock in the morning because it's somebody else's afternoon. And your game needs to be set up for everybody. Because again, if the first time somebody logs on wants to play your game, there's a 30-minute or an hour-long wait time, they're not going to wait that long. They're going to go do something else.
Yeah.
And like I said, the downward spiral, unfortunately, has claimed many of these games, because once people sense blood in the water, no pun intended with a Sharky over there, but once they start thinking that this game is dead, people aren't going to start playing it, and then the self-fulfilled prophecy begins to happen.
Yeah. Luckily, being a shark and all that, I know about the blood in the water beforehand, and I can just avoid it, or attempt to anyway. And that's what I'm doing. I'm doing risk mitigation to prevent that, doing many, many steps on many layers. Do you want to go into some kind of detail on that, or save that for later kind of thing?
Yeah, let's save that for later, since We went a whole lot long into the free to play aspect. No. Yeah. And it is very difficult to, again, mitigate a lot of these challenges. As you said, Shark, that you want to make sure that there is a community ready. We're not asking you to have like 10 million players, but you need people to be interested. And again, this is where marketing comes in. You want people day one to be excited about your game. And of course, a lot of people will say, well, Overwatch did, like Overwatch did some Mario, but it wasn't that big. But again, Overwatch is Blizzard. Blizzard is its own marketing. If you are a new developer, I need to know about your game like easily 6 months to a year in advance, or you're not going to have enough time to build people's interests.
Yeah, and that's an issue I'm currently facing. Like like the people who have like seen it have been really super invested into it and everything. But most people haven't seen it. Most people are unaware of it, and the hype is real for a very few select people, and everybody else is like, I have no idea what it's going on.
Yeah. And
it's like those few people that have like pallets and pallets of toilet paper, and everybody has none. They know fully the advantages to having a lot of toilet paper. Most people don't. Pretty much everybody. Most of the world does not have that luxury to know what having a massive toilet paper is like.
And like we said, just because you have this is why you need, like, ultimately when your game is released, it's out, you need a healthy community. Because again, having 100 super hardcore players doesn't help you because of just having them, because new players aren't going to want to play with your hardcore players and vice versa. And I've ran into that issue where I tried to play a free-to-play game that because there were no mid-core players, I literally couldn't progress because the whole game makes use of a matchmaking system. So guess what? That game is popular for like 500 to 1,000 people. That's it. Nobody else can play that game.
Yeah. Well, back to the whole matchmaking times, this goes back into that, with that 1 minute time, that's just pairing you with the first person you can be paired against kind of thing. And even that requires 3,000 players to get that average of 1 minute time, which will, balloon up to 10 minutes at other times, and, maybe like 15, 20 seconds on other times. But you'll have that issue there of not being able to lost it, but like just 3,000 players is not enough. Like 3,000 players is just like the barest of bare minimums that you possibly have, and you need those people signed up and ready to go at minute 1. Not minute 3, not minute 8,
not month 3.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually another really good point. Long-term viability. It is incredibly challenging to support a multiplayer game long-term because you need the hook. You need the carrot, on the end of the stick to keep people playing. And this is the only things that I spoke with Ramin about. That when a free-to-play or any game says, we had 2 million concurrent users this month, we're like, so what? We want to know what your game's going to be doing next month, and the month after that, and the month after that. Because if your game cannot go the distance, it's not going to survive. And again, this is why World of Warcraft is still considered the king example. It's been going for, 16 years now? Like, it has cemented itself in, like, the MMO market. And for a lot of multiplayer-based games, they run into this problem usually in, I think, one of two ways. Either A, the game simply does not have enough content. And, that is the endless cycle, No matter what you develop for a game, people will always want more. Like, you will never have a game where people will say there's too much stuff in your game to play. And then the other issue is, how do you keep somebody who has played your game to keep coming back to it? This is why the whole games as a service aspect really took hold for for free to play and AAA titles, because they want somebody to be playing their game for months, if not years. A multiplayer game that only has 3 weeks of content is also going to die in 3 weeks.
Yeah, that goes for even a single player game. A single player game that only has 10 minutes worth of content, kind of thing, is going to die in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's not like you release another patch 2 weeks later that has another 30 seconds of content, another minute of content, even another 10 minutes of content.
There we go.
Ain't nobody coming back to it.
Yep. And there's a lot we could unpack about time. Again, that's another topic for another day there. But of course, the difference is that a single player game, people, at least outside of games as a service, don't expect to be returning to this game for months and years on end. One of the things that Rockstar did, I think that was kind of smart of them, is that they've kind of embraced this idea that we're going to develop the single player game. It's going to be this very, compact experience that's locked in, it's released, it's done, we're not adding more content for that unless it's expansion. And then we're going to go all in on the multiplayer, so that once somebody is fully hooked in that world, they'll have all this other stuff to do. And ultimately, I guess here's a question for you and for the chat. What do you feel is easier to develop content for? A multiplayer game or a single player game? Because I could see pros and cons to each.
I think it is just a pros and cons kind of list, and it would depend on the game itself.
Yeah.
Because in single player, you've got to you're going to have, if you got a story, you got to have all the stuff with the story. You've got to have all this stuff and everything. Where in multiplayer, you can arguably release a more incomplete game. And when I say incomplete game, I mean a game that has a core gameplay loop, a solid loop that keeps on going, and a certain amount of content for it, and then supplement that content every so many months kind of thing. And, it's more like an early access kind of thing, where, if you got to keep on releasing content in a good increment. Don't go too long. Also, don't go too short, kind of thing, and get a good rate there and keep it steady. Clay did really good with this with the alert. Hey, the next patch is going to be out on X date, kind of thing, and be excited for it. It's X amount of days from here. And that applies to multiplayer games and games as a service, where you're wanting to keep on putting out content every so often, kind of thing. And our current game, I'm unsure if it's going to get a second set, kind of thing. We have to see if the first set survives and makes money and everything. But if we can break even with the first set, there's definitely going to be a second set. I've already got loose plans for it. Not plans, but I've got plans for plans, basically.
Yeah. And that, I think, is another very big point. That if the game, you have to kind of accommodate, when you're building a multiplayer-based game, you have to kind of almost pre-plan out if this game does well. Because there is such a thing as going too much into a multiplayer game. As in, I'm going to develop 12 years of content before my game is even released. Because then you are putting all the eggs into one basket there. And what happens if it doesn't succeed? Because we've seen developers, you have to release the right amount of content. There has to be enough that people can enjoy your game on its own right then and there. But you also have to, again, give them enough leeway to know, okay, there's more coming, but the game is good. The game is great as it sits right now.
Yeah. And another point that we haven't talked about is modes in a multiplayer game. Because this goes back again to that core thing of those numbers, where we're talking about 3,000 players roughly to, get the matchmaking and everything.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Well, if you add a mode kind of thing, like say you got, let's say, mode 1, right? And then you add mode 2, you're now dividing your player base.
Yep.
Now you need 3,000 for each half of your player base.
Oh, yeah.
So now you need 6,000 for that bare minimum.
If you
add a third mode, a fourth mode, 8 modes, now you're tuning out how many players you have, which everybody has told me. Hey, you should, I got this idea for a cool mode for Project Triad. Hey, I've got, you should put this cool mode in. And it's like, yeah, those modes sound really awesome and really cool and everything, and I would really love to pull them in. But until the game is established, we are not splitting the player base.
Yeah, and if you remember, we played that Darkspur game, the kind of MOBA Left 4 Dead, that it has it has 3 different gameplay modes. You have the story mode, you have the competitive versus mode, and then you have the raid mode. Or, I'm sorry, the base defend mode. That is 3 different modes requiring between 4 and 8 players per match. And Left 4 Dead ran into that same problem. That, do I play the co-op mode? I just need 4 people. Do I play the versus mode? I need 8 people. Do I play, the survival mode? I need another 4 people. And you have to be really careful about that. Because in a multiplayer game, you need to be very focused in terms of what your core gameplay is going to be. To Payday 2's credit, they basically just kept to the one thing. Every map is going to be 4-player matches. That's it. We're not doing 2. We're not doing 8. It's 4. And when you have that baseline, it makes it at least a little bit easier in terms of balancing. And people have complained to Overkill to this day, we want 8-player competitive versus mode. Well, guess what? That is basically designing a completely new game.
I wouldn't say that. I would say that it would be... They could just simply, copy what they have now, set it to 8 players and everything, and put in some, and then make any kind of design adjustments they need to make, or just not and do it the lazy way. And, but like, they're dividing their player base at that point, which means they need more players in order to, and also, like, the fact that they have 4 players in a match, the numbers we were talking about, the stream died?
Oh, did it? I don't think so.
It did on my side.
No, it seems like we're still on. Uh-oh. Test.
Yeah. Apparently, I just had to refresh. It just gave me a gray screen. And the screen is... Like, they put the kibosh on it. But when you're, those numbers I gave you with the 3,000, those were based off of 1v1 kind of thing. When you have 4, is it 4v4 or is it just 4 working together?
In Payday?
Yeah.
It's just 4 co-op. There is no competitive aspect to it.
So at that rate, they need twice as many as the 3,000, so they need 6,000 to get that bare minimum kind of thing. And even if you add a single player mode to your multiplayer game, because like several people have been like, well, what if your multiplayer fails? Put in a single player. Well, if I put in a single player, that's almost guaranteed to make my multiplayer fail because it's adding another mode that is going to be separate.
And people will just play the single player.
And just play the single player. And never go into multiplayer, and then that's the entire point behind the game.
Yep.
So it is better in a lot of ways to go all in on multiplayer because you're in just one mode of it, so that way you coalesce your player base all in one spot. But if you go for multiplayer and you go all in for multiplayer, be sure that you do the steps to get those 3,000 people before you actually launch the game.
Yeah.
And that is something I'm struggling with now.
You need to do marketing. You need people to know what your game is. Your game needs to stand out from other games. Again, the thumbnail for this for the stream, I use Lawbreakers, the game that at one point had a peak community base of 97 people playing it worldwide. They couldn't even get the full 100 for a Battle Royale mode in it. And a lot of people said that mechanically speaking, Lawbreakers was a really good game. But the marketing for it was non-existent. It looked like generic bro-tastic first-person shooter 17 with all the grays and browns and metal you can go with it. And then you put that next to something like Overwatch. And I mean, Overwatch's marketing, again, Blizzard knows how to market outside of the do you have cell phones situation there. But
maybe that was intended.
Dun dun dun. Blizzard's in with big smartphone now. And, well, they are with China, so that could stand right there. But, again, like, Blizzard knows how to get people excited about their games. Like, again, the Diablo 4 reveal. It's a 10-minute cutscene, and people lost their damn minds.
That is absolutely nothing to do with the actual Diablo the game.
Yeah, or that Overwatch scene where the character looks sad. And, everyone was crying while they were watching their live reactions of people crying at the Overwatch trailer.
Yeah.
And, again, and that's, I think, another big point. When Blizzard announced Diablo, when they, quote-unquote, announced Diablo 4, that was last year, 2019. That game, I think they said it still has, 3 to 4 years worth of development.
Yeah, it's got to start development.
Well, that's true, too. They did the cutscene before they did the game. That's what you should have done. You should have created the intro trailer to Project Tri before you even came with any of the designs. And then you'd be set.
Still working on that one.
But you have to give your marketing... Again, marketing, this is another topic. Like, if we do this, we're here for hour 5. But you have to cultivate people to have that interest in your game. And this is, I think, again, this is one of those big distinctions. With a single-player game, it's great to have people knowing and talking about your game, obviously. But you don't need 3,000 single-player people to play your game daily in order for your game.
Time.
Yeah. You need that as a minimum for multiplayer. And again, that is what you were just describing that with 2 people, 1v1 matches. Well, we're talking about 20 versus 20, 50 versus 50.
100 versus 100.
Thank you. Battle Royale. It adds up. And here's another really good point. If you remember, after Lawbreakers failed, they tried to do their own Battle Royale game, whose name completely escapes me for obvious reasons. Because it lasted, I think, 3 weeks, and then it died and the studio went down. Everyone versus everyone. They're perfect. We'll just put everyone in the game at the same time.
Just one match. Everyone versus everyone. It'll be like 3,200 versus 3,200.
Perfect. You can design the multiplayer architecture for that, right?
Yeah. As long as I skip lunch, I can do it in an hour.
Exactly. And as we've said, multiplayer, let's to begin to wrap things up, because again we'll be here for all night long. Let's talk about the good, about why you should, or why multiplayer games do work, and when they work well, why we still see them. That when the multiplayer game succeeds, when it not only is doing well but it's thriving, these games go the distance. This is something that we talked with Ramin about. And that idea of player created content, that the players themselves are the content to your multiplayer game. And this is again why these games why the games that do manage to rise up, they're not going anywhere. Because they have built as a fan base and a community that is so entrenched they're going to support this game day in and day out. This is why there is the annual Blizzard cons and the the Warframe conventions as well, because these communities are so entrenched that unless developers one day decide we don't want money anymore and we're going to turn off our games, they're going to keep going.
Yeah, or they stir up enough controversies that enough people quit.
Yeah. Blizzard, I think, what? Do they have like 5 more? I think their shield allows them 5 more controversies before maybe like 5% of their fan base stops following them.
Yeah, but those 5 will regen back rather quickly.
When they do another trailer for Diablo 5.
Yeah. Yeah, so as long as they don't have 5 more before the trailer for number 5, they're fine.
Each trailer gives them 5 more controversies, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And you want to be able to just keep these... When people stay around for these games, they really do, I think, become, greater than the actual game itself. Again, fandom has kept many things alive. Diablo 7. Maybe Diablo 7 will be a visual novel game.
Probably. We got the Game Awards to thank for that.
Mm-hmm. And like we said, like the very best multiplayer games become almost like a perpetual motion machine in terms of their support, because people keep playing, and the people who are supporting your game are providing enough funding to keep that game rotating in hell. Yes, exactly. I think somebody must have done that already. I can't imagine somebody hasn't already came with that concept for a visual novel game.
Yeah, and but in order to keep that ball rolling, you have to keep on rolling out content, kind of thing. And if you're not rolling out content, then they're not going to stay happy and they're not going to keep it rolling. So it's not perpetual motion. You still have to add in that kick of development. You got to
give that little push ever so often. Yeah, and when we say content, we mean gameplay content. We don't just mean you're going to develop capes and hats for the next decade. People need more to do in this game. This is why, again, that a lot of these multiplayer games can grow and change dramatically over the years. Again, this is why Warframe is one of the best examples. Warframe has literally added in brand new game systems to their multiplayer game. And that takes a lot of time. And I mean, they are at this point, I think they are one part of the most confident multiplayer developers like on the market because of that.
I know with Project Triad, I know what I've got to do to keep that content out there, and I'm not. I'm definitely fearing it.
And again, it's in one sense, I think it's a good problem to have that so many people love my game, I have to keep making stuff for it. But then, the monkey's paw, the finger closes, and then you realize I need to keep coming up with stuff for 5 to 10 years or people are going to get tired of this game.
Yeah. Like with Project Triad, we need to release an expansion, another set of cards, every 3 months. And, each one of those expansions need to have 100 plus cards in it, which it's taken a long time to get the images we have, and we're still nowhere near done with the first 150 cards kind of thing.
And don't forget, you're going to add balance. You have to, design mechanics for these new cards as well.
Yeah, the mechanics thing's not really such a big deal because I designed a bunch of mechanics in coming up with the original mechanics for the game, for the cards, and didn't go with I didn't go with the best mechanics when I did it. When I came up with them, I went with the ones that fit the best and were easiest to understand, kind of thing, like the intro kind of level, like something to really bring players on board and get them invested before, hey, here's something on the more complicated side. Here's, that's really cool kind of thing. So like we didn't even go with our best foot forward. We went with our, the best thematic and the best onboarding way to get people onboarded.
And
kind of
that's
thing.
A really good point. Again, that's what you want to do. You don't want to put out your hardest, most, player repelling content in version 1 of your game. And this is again why a lot of developers, that what we see them do is that when it comes to a multiplayer or a long-term game, once they've gotten, let's say, the first 5 to 10 hours of content done, they will never touch that bit of content ever again. They don't want to upset that flow that they've generated. And this is why a lot of content that gets added is going to be added to extend the playtime. A new planet, a new set of maps, new cards, new loot boxes, you name it.
Yeah. And another thing, we're going to be adding cosmetics with the new sets. And if we have enough players, we'll be adding in new modes and everything that'll give you more uses of the same cards, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And expand the loops, kind of thing. Yeah. But we're going to need to put out stuff periodically. Every 3 months, we're going to need to have another set of cards, kind of thing. Because here's the thing: is 150 cards, kind of thing. You can have 3 or 4 in your deck, kind of thing. People who are playing for free are going to get cards, a lot of cards, kind of thing, in 3 months, kind of thing. And people who buy cards, are going to get all the cards pretty dang quickly, kind of thing, because there's not a lot of cards, kind of thing. It's not a massive 250, 300 card set, because that's what I tried at first, and we had to cut down and cut down and cut down and cut down because I couldn't afford to get anybody to actually make that.
Yeah, and again, you have to balance everything with what you're able to make versus what the people want. Again, people will always want more content. Like we've said, there is no game in existence where people will say, you can stop adding more stuff. We're fine with, 30 hours of content. We will stop here. But they will devour new content. And that's something I'm sure you're running into. It's something any multiplayer-based developer has ran into. You can spend 6 months working on a new expansion and people will beat that within 24 hours. We've seen that with World of Warcraft and Destiny.
Yep.
So you have to be smart with your content. You need to understand what is going to keep somebody going long term. Really.
And, the whole thing we talked about before about the login stuff, get them come back. Try to get them come back every day because you give them a bonus every day, but don't force them to come back every day. Give them, that buffer period kind of thing, a few days kind of thing on those, things. That is a way to, an effective way to get people to come back to a certain point. I mean, that's only to a certain point because, your game still has to be fun. Still has to not be abusing them. Well, the abuse can get them to stay there, but you don't want to get them to stay there that way because people will hate you.
Yep.
And
I think this will be my final point, and we'll try to wrap things up. That this is again one of the major risks of multiplayer. That if you piss people off in a multiplayer game, they are never going to come back, and when that happens, that begins the downward spiral. Because, like we've said, people stop playing your game because, the developer said something bad or they did something, manipulative or wrong. People will remember that. And they will not come back because, you quote-unquote learned your lesson. And unless you have a sizable audience already to kind of supplement that, it's so easy with a multiplayer game to just stab yourself in the foot and kill your game for the wrong reasons.
Well, the thing about multiplayer games is you piss off people and everything. Say you got 10,000 players. You piss off, 3,000 of them, you go down to 7,000.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you go down to 7,000, the matchmaking takes longer.
Yep.
And now, like, 2,000 people get pissed off because of that, and they quit.
Yep.
Which now takes it down to 5,000, and then those 5,000 have even long matchmaking, and then that's the straw that breaks their back. For 2,000 of them, they quit, and you're down to 3,000.
Yep.
And then 10 of them go on vacation, and now you're down to 999, and now you're getting.
Nope.
And now your game just completely dies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But if you're just at that 3,000, it just takes just one person to leave, and your game is done, basically. Mm-hmm. Like, it's that 3,000 is like basically the minimum of active players.
Yeah. But I think to wrap things up, like we said, ultimately, multiplayer-only games can do a lot of good. And when they succeed, they can oftentimes propel a developer, up in terms of their status and recognition. Again, Overkill with Payday 2, that game basically saved their company, and it saved Starbreeze. It was the only thing that was making the money, I think still to this point. And they were only going to support that game for 2 years, and it got, I think, like 5 or 6 years before they stopped, and now they're starting again with more content. And when your game can hit that level, it basically earns you a lot of support. But again, it's keeping that becomes very difficult.
Yeah. And to Chris's point, we're not talking about the time that the computer takes to put people together in matchmaking. We're talking about the time it takes for somebody to actually want to play a matchmaking game. So, like, if you're sitting there matchmaking and nobody else comes around for 10 minutes, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about 3,000 players. 3,000 players is enough to have enough players that you can average one, you can manage to pair 2 players, one versus one. You can manage to get 2 people online within that same minute, within a minute's time, kind of thing, which means that there'll be some times where it'll be 10 minutes before somebody else shows up, and there'll be some times where it'll only be 2 or 3 seconds before somebody else shows up. But that 3,000 is an average of 1 minute. Is you take the number of minutes in a day times 24 hours times 2 people, 1v1. And 3,000 is basically where you get that limit to where 1 minute average wait time.
And again, that is with 2 players. That's with 1v1 matches.
Yeah, and so, like, we're not talking about the time that it takes matchmaking to pick another person. We're talking about the time that it takes to get another person actually online, kind of thing. And 3,000 is that point of, pairing anybody against anybody, not ranked or anything else. Like, ranked, when you go into ranked matching, like where you're pairing people against who's going to be their best opponent, you need way more than 3,000 people. 3,000 is just the bare minimum you need for pairing anybody against anybody, and you're still going to have 10-minute wait times, kind of thing. And it's not going to matter how long it actually takes to match. Well, actually, if you put matchmaking in at that point, then you're going to have a real trouble, because you're going to have, all the beginner, if all your people if most of your people are pros, kind of thing, they're going to get matchmaking pretty quickly, where all your new players are going to join in, and they're going to go to matchmake, and they're going to be there for 2 hours because there is no other noobs coming in.
Yeah.
And then they're going to uninstall, and your game is going to do.
And again, you need to cultivate a very wide fan base. You don't want your game to just become 500 hardcore people playing it, because if nobody's going to join your game at that point, then what happens if one of those 500 people decide to leave? Well, now you only have 499 people, And what happens if a few of them decide to go on vacation? And this is not a game that is a multiplayer game that is not growing is unfortunately going to start declining. And again, at some point, you unfortunately may have to cut that cord. We sadly saw this with Evolve, that despite the changes they made for the better, the well was tainted. It was not going to bring new people back, or bring people back, I should say.
Yeah. But Chris, what we're referring to is we're talking about having 3,000 active players, which is only enough to get you at sometimes 2 concurrent players.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if you don't have 2 concurrent players, then you're not going to be able to matchmake within a minute. 2 concurrent players within a minute that are matchmaking. I mean, that would be more than 2 concurrent players because, like, if matches are 5 minutes, that would be like 10 concurrent players kind of thing. But, or maybe 12, whatever it would be. But we're talking about you have to reach 3,000 players, have 3,000 people ready to play on day one, or else your game is dead, kind of thing.
And Mr. Elrod, I hope I didn't butcher that either. He's making me sad because he's bringing back Shattered Galaxy, which I really love that game. Yeah. And again, the fan base can certainly keep things alive. City of Heroes stayed alive for a hell of a lot longer. Again, that is the power of the fandom that goes in these games, and why so many people tend to go for these multiplayer-based titles. So they do build up that level of fandom, that sense of cooperation, along with the competitive nature of it. And it allows these communities to thrive far longer than they would have otherwise. But again, it takes a lot to get to that point. It is a very... It's, like that, what's that expression? But, you're holding sand in your hands and, not letting it, like, slip out of your fingers.
Yeah. I mean, it's very similar to way mods works, where the community keeps the games alive.
Yep. And ultimately, I think that is the major... I think that's going to be our final point, that if you want a multiplayer game, all multiplayer games need their community to survive. And the earlier you can build that, the earlier you can figure out what your community wants out of your game, it's going to be better. Because any multiplayer game that launches day one without any kind of marketing or awareness, that game's dead. It won't survive.
Yep.
Even if it is good, I think this is the final point, and we gotta wrap things up. Multiplayer games aren't necessarily built on quality and mechanics alone. You can have an amazing, innovative, never-before-seen multiplayer game, and it will still die if there's not community support, no matter how great that gameplay loop is.
Yeah. You can't just... communities will die if they're not taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to keep on taking care of them to have them keep on taking care of you, essentially. Mm-hmm. There are exceptions to where, games where they cut the cord kind of thing and they still support it, but that is the exception to the rule. You don't want to be, I wouldn't say you don't want to be an exception to the rule. You don't want to plan on being an exception to the rule. You want to plan on being the normal, which the normal is once you cut that cord, it's dead.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to plan around that kind of thing, and you have to plan to keep it alive and everything. And you don't want to put too much into that because you don't want to sink your ship before it even gets out there. But at the same time, you don't want to plan too little and not get not be able to keep it afloat after it goes out.
Again, you need that balance.
Mm-hmm. It needs to be safely extreme.
Exactly. And I think that will be our final word for the Kaz then. But yeah, again, like multiplayer and free to play design are topics that are multifaceted. And for those of you watching this live or record, if you have anything you want us to kind of drill down or focus on specifically for a future talk or video, let us know in the comments below. But
I like what you did there about the multiplayer and some.
then you kind of cut out there at the end, though.
I said it's all multifaceted. You said it was all multifaceted.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But we're going to wrap things up for this week. We'll be back later tonight for our regular game streams. You can follow me on Twitter at GWBicer, as well as here and on game-wisdom.com. We have our Discord channel open to everybody, link down below. And for you, Shark, what are the best places they can follow you?
Well, the best place would be Discord. You can find my Discord link down below. And there we hold our dev chats every month, where people get to see lots of really cool stuff and get to hear lots of cool things about the game and get to put in their input and shape the game into becoming the best game they can possibly play. And, also we're on Twitter where, we post some stuff occasionally. I need to, learn some stuff on Twitter. I got to get good at Twitter and everything. Link to that is down below. And there's, YouTube channel that is also linked down below, which Josh and I will be starting a series at some point soon, and the series will be posted both there and here, as well as at some point, hopefully in about a month and a half, 2 months, we're going to start doing live development streams.
Nice. That's if, society hasn't crumbled yet. But, again, as long as internet works, we'll survive, at least.
Yeah.
Alright, everyone, that is going to do it. So be sure to come back for daily discussions on game design here and on Game Wisdom, where some of the art and science of games. Have a great rest of your Easter Sunday. Stay safe and all that, and we will see you next time for another chat about the art and design of video games. Take care.
And here's a question. What is a shark's Easter egg?
What is it? Wait, what?
What is an Easter egg for a shark?
I don't know. What is it?
We'll find out next podcast.
All right, there we go. All right, everyone. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Take care.